All right. Hello, church. This is week 6, where we'll be studying the book Showing Up by Carrie Willis and Margaret Michael. We're going to be discussing chapter 6 together, Presence Together, and what that means, how the Lord's been speaking to us, and how we've been blessed and are growing this week based on what we've read so far. All right. So I'm going to open it up as I always do and ask you guys just what you read this week and how it spoke to you, and how, and if you're feeling a way you could share that would be awesome.
Well, I like in the beginning how it talks about to be careful not to think of presence evangelism as a solitary assignment, because there's a point where, like, in my faith, where I was just like, felt like I was just like the only one alone on an island. And then, like, that was during COVID, like the lockdown. But even then, it was like social media has such a different opinion or like the world has such a different opinion than like Jesus and the gospel and like the church. So just like remembering that there's a community is really important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's great. That's great. Hurts to feel alone, but it's good to be reminded that we do have brothers and sisters in Christ that can build us up and grow with us. So that's an important reminder. You know, the book said even the only one that could have done it on his own was Jesus, and he still didn't do it on his own. You know, he still had a group of people. Come follow me. I'll teach you how to catch people. You know, he was always gathering. He was always going to church. He was always had huge followings around him. And there were certain special times where he was by himself, where he needed to speak to the Father alone. And I think those times are important. But it's also very important to be involved in a community. And I think Jesus demonstrated that. So that's great that Westchester is able to be that for you, Ori. That's great.
Page 73, I look back and see how amazing times have changed, where it says on there about 20 years ago, a church member was considered active in the church if he or she attended 3 times a week. Today, a church member is considered active in the church if he or she attends 3 times a month.
Mm-hmm.
That's a reminder of how times have changed. Yeah.
Yeah. I haven't been a senior pastor of a church for very long, but when I get somebody who's watching, 2 or 3 weeks in a row, I'm like, yes, like we got somebody, like I'm so excited about it. And I mean, that's where my gauge is, because I'm newer at this, but I do remember times back in Virginia Beach where we'd be at church, I don't know how many times a week. We'd have Wednesdays and band practice and Sunday mornings, Sunday evenings. Like we were always at church, yeah, times do change, but should our expectations change? That's a question we can ponder. Like, is it really such a weird thing to be at church 4 times a week anymore? Or even 2 or 3 times a week? Has it become a Sunday only thing?
It has really become a Sunday only thing, but I grew up in the church, and we were there Sunday night, Sunday morning, Wednesday night.
Mm-hmm.
If there was a revival, I can remember saying to my mom, I have homework, too bad, so sad. It didn't matter. You went to church, and it was just the way, if the door was open, you were there. And, sometimes as a kid, I think, but looking back, it wasn't so bad.
Mm-hmm.
And, I think it's sad that, when you have something, now when we schedule something on a Sunday night, we don't have anything regular on a Sunday night, but if we have like a missionary or something come in, it's like, well, will we have enough people? Will it be, I just think it's very sad that it's not a priority, but, you know, we do have, you know, the virtual things and all that, but it's not the same. Like Sunday, we had Faith Promise, and then we had a dinner afterward, and everybody just hung out. It was, the majority of people just came and stayed. Not everybody stayed, but most of them did. And we were there. I got home, it was after 1 o'clock. You know, it's great.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, that's where everything comes in, sort of generational, really. And you can tell the folks from a certain generation, and I hear it all the time, you know, they had church on Sunday night, Sunday school, and in the middle of the week. And like it was a cycle to recycle everything. And it's generational, but things and times have changed. So, you know, you gotta change with it, I guess.
Mhm.
You know, yeah.
Some things we can bend with, and some things maybe we shouldn't. And maybe that's something that we leave up to the Lord to lead us through, you know. But I mean, I was just sharing a couple weeks ago, I need to find somewhere to sign my kid up for flag football that doesn't interfere with Sunday mornings, because it seems like all of the programs do now. And I found him one. They do have games on Sunday mornings, but not for 11-year-olds. You know, so the 11-year-olds play in the afternoons, which I'm like, all right, great, that's perfect. We're going to sign them up tomorrow morning. But you know, for some people, that is something that they'd be willing to compromise on. No, my kid plays soccer games on Sunday, so no, I can't make it to church today. You know, but like that wasn't even an option back in the day. You know, and I say back in the day, I'm 34, but still, like, from what I've heard talking to people and stuff, like that wasn't even really thought about. Like, church is on Sunday, and you know, society resumes at like 1 o'clock on Sunday. You know, like, and even further back then, they didn't have anything on at all on Sundays for the whole day. If you go back even further,
Yeah.
then, you know, it wasn't
And there
even
were
thought
blue
of.
laws. So you didn't shop on Sunday. You didn't,
Mhm.
you really do anything on Sunday. You know, you went
Yeah.
home and you had dinner and you went back to church.
Yeah,
That's the way
my
it
buddy was a used car salesman, and he said they couldn't sell a car on Sundays because that was still one of the blue collar laws. They weren't allowed to sell a used car on Sunday. Yeah. What do you guys think of? My wife commented on this when Billy Graham said, churchgoers are like coals in a fire. When they cling together, they'll keep the flame aglow, but when they separate, they'll die out." That was pretty cool when I read that part.
Yeah, that's like a little, I think that's almost a word of caution, because during COVID, we all stayed in our homes, and fortunately, we were able to live stream church. But now that many of the COVID restrictions have been lifted, I don't see a big return to church, because we're still live streaming, but you're not connected. It's just like Susan said, when we had this dinner after service on Sunday, it was just so nice to be able to talk to people and fellowship in that way, and do, you know, even cleaning up afterwards and putting all the stuff away. It was normal, but I don't know. I don't see a massive return, because the line of least resistance is, oh, I can do it online, if they even do it online. And
Right.
so that's a concern, that the church is certainly being winnowed and culled, so to speak, and it's different.
Yeah, I remember going to Westchester and preaching a couple of times during my classes, and it was you know, almost every time, "Oh, you guys staying for lunch afterwards?" I was like, "Sure, let's go." And we thought that was awesome, the way that everybody just fellowship together, had fun, just talked about whatever. You know, I was able to catch up with the Stoltz family because we have that connection with another family in Virginia, so that was pretty cool, and it was just nice to have lunch together like that. So I saw Pastor Carey post about it this week online. And I was like, oh yeah, I remember when we did that. That was really nice, you know? So it must have felt pretty good to start those things back up again too. That must have been awesome. I had a thought. I'm not sure where my thought went. Oh, what was it you were just talking about, Patty? I had something.
It was just like, it seemed normal that, but yet people haven't returned
Yeah,
after COVID.
yeah. I think about schooling online. Both my wife and I go to college online. Partially online, partially. Well, let me explain. We go to school in person, but they have you watch videos online. And I know when I'm watching a video online, I just had to watch one on like APA formatting and how to research and stuff like that. Like I've got it on, but I'm like half paying attention. It's not like for real, you know what I mean? But if I was in person in the class listening to a lecture on that, I would be a lot more engaged. I'd be a lot more present in that moment, you know? So, and church is very much the same way. I think for at least for a lot of people, you know, when you're listening to a church service online, is it really the same thing as being in a church service? Like, hey, that's a whole lot better than no church service at all. But actually being in the same room together, like it's just it's hard to explain, but it just means so much more, you know? What was this woman's name? Sharon. What did you guys think of Sharon's story when you read that? About how the woman wrote the story. I'm not sure if we ever got her name. I don't remember. But the woman wrote the story as from the perspective of Sharon ministering to her. And starting small, you know, with like a gentle hug, encouraging words and prayer, and then over time it just built and built and built into, you know, Sharon found the Lord and gave up her life to him. And that was pretty awesome. What'd you guys think of that story? And if you made any connections or whatnot.
I thought it was, one thing that jumped out at me was that it was over a long period of time. There's a lot of investment of time there.
Yeah.
You know, that I think sometimes maybe either we're not willing or not able to commit. And so I think that just kind of brought that home that, you know, it's not, you need Jesus and it's going to be like that. It's not going to be that way.
Yeah, I would
Yeah.
say that like that incident that I had at Exton Mall in that play area, that was not the norm for me. But I've got friends more like the Sharon story, and I see no fruit coming from it, but I don't know what, I mean, over a long period of time. And I would say that it's that is definitely more my story. And I assume that God is working in these people's lives because I pray for them. Although I need to start praying for this one friend more. But it's like, I think that that's where you reap the results is over a long period of time. But you're also friends, like we're friends, we have a lot in common. And that's how we became friends. But they also know that I'm a Christian. And I guess they could have just waved me off if they didn't want to participate. I mean, I didn't want a Christian friend, but so yeah, I think that that's more the story for me anyway.
Yeah, you guys both mentioned the period of time that took, and you know, I didn't really gather that the first time I read it, but it makes a lot of sense. Like, I was just preaching that this past week about I've been preaching on Esther ever since we were reminded on it, like in week 1 or 2 or 3 or something like that. But yeah, how Mordecai did this great thing for the king and saved his life and didn't actually see anything of that for years to come, except when it really mattered, when he really needed God the most. That's when he was like, God put the reminder in the king's head and went to saved his life, because he was about to be executed by this other guy, and God was working in the background through the whole time without Mordecai even knowing about it. And I think this example and some of the examples that you ladies shared is the same thing. Like, God's always working in the background and his work is always good. And sometimes we don't see it, but when we do get to see it, man, it's a huge blessing and it's awesome.
I think the life of Joseph is one of the biggest examples of that
Hmm.
in the Bible. It's one of my favorite,
Yeah.
stories. But boy, you think about all that he went through, but God was always at work
Hmm.
in the background there. And ultimately, it's just an incredible story.
Yeah. One of my pastoral mentors preached the entire story of Joseph in one sermon. That was a long sermon. I bring it up today. He's like, yeah, maybe not my best work, but but yeah, that was a great story too. The story of Joseph, and it just seemed like he was getting knocked down every step of the way, but every time he got knocked down, he took 2 more steps up, and yeah, God just kept rising him up over and over and over again. The higher up he went, the further he fell, but the further he fell, the higher up he went again. That's an insane story. It's really encouraging. Mm. What does it mean to give your life to your friend? I'm stealing a question right out of the book, page 76. Jesus literally gave his life. He died for his friends. He died for all of us, Does that mean that we have to do the same, or what does it mean to give our life for our friends?
I think it's to love sacrificially, not literally giving your life. I mean, you would be called to do that if an opportunity came up,
Mhm.
to lay down your life for your friends, but to love them sacrificially, just like Jesus would if he were present today. How would
Mhm.
Jesus be a friend to us? That's exactly how we're supposed to be a friend to people too.
Mhm.
It's really thinking of their best interests. Sometimes that's providing practically, sometimes it's encouragement, sometimes it's hard truth, all of which Jesus modeled and did.
Mhm.
So I think that's what it is, to give your life for your friends.
Yep, investing time, like Patty was saying. That's part of sharing the gospel. Love. Different forms of love. Jesus called us all friends, so let's say go and make disciples.
I think too, you can't take offense very easily, because sometimes friends, they say things that, well, you might not agree with. But so I know that for one, I've just had to overlook some things.
Mhm.
And so I think that that's part of it too. You can't just say, well, they don't agree with everything and then move on. It's like there's, it's more than that.
I was also thinking about what Lauren said. Like, it's like sacrifice in a way that's like continual charity. But the one thing that I struggle with seeing is like, how do you remain in like continual service without like becoming a slave to them? Or like, how do you continually encourage them in a way where it's true without having to like kiss butt or like curry favor with them? Like, because eventually I feel like it'll get to a point
Yeah, I've struggled with that in earlier chapters. Pastor Carey, I think it was Pastor Carey's writing, said something like the relationship will be very one-sided. You are to keep giving and giving. I'm like, well, I have a problem with that. Like, I could, like, my humanness will definitely come out. Like, all right, when is something going to give? When am I going to see the fruit? Right. You know, so our humanness is going to catch up, you know, if we're not Christ in us, if we're us. So yeah, that's a very good point. I agree.
I think what I've heard from a couple different people is a way that, you know, giving your life has a lot to do with time, because we have a lot of resources in this world. As time is something that we just can't make more of, you know. So when you give, you know, when you give money to somebody, you can always go to work and make more money. When you give something to someone, you can always get another of those things or whatnot. But when you give your time to somebody, and efforts and emotions and attention and love, like those are things you can't get back, you know. So I can see how that hurts sometimes when you're given your time and you can't see where it's going, and you feel like you're being taken advantage of, and you're like, what am I supposed to do with this, you know? I don't think there is a simple answer to that. I don't. I think that's you got to be in constant communication with the Lord, and if the Lord is calling you to do it, then you got to keep on doing it and trust that His ways are right. And you know, there might come a time where He's maybe not calling you to do that anymore, and that's something you need to you figure out with Him, because I don't know if any of us have those answers, because I think we've all felt that way sometimes, you know, like we're giving our all to somebody, and that somebody just keeps taking and taking and taking. And when are we going to see where it's going? You know, that's, I don't think there is a simple answer to that. So go ahead, Lauren.
That's also something that we can ask God to sanctify us through.
Mhm.
You know, because ultimately that is the model, is to love sacrificially, love just like that every single person in your life. Doesn't look the same for every person, you know, relationships are different, but that's should be part of your sanctification. Like, how do I actually really truly love people sacrificially like I'm supposed to? Because we're talking about all these, you know, objections that we have in our humanness, which is totally normal. But part of the sanctifying process is getting rid of that humanness and being able to love just like Jesus did.
Mhm.
So
Another side to that would also be like, I feel like when Jesus sent the disciples to like preach the word, if they didn't accept them, they had to like dust or kick the dust off their shoes and keep going. And I feel like once it gets to that point, it's hard to let go also. But how do you decipher that? Like, we'll be in communication with God and just like ask Jesus for direction and guidance. But I feel like there have been times where I've almost like resisted, like God telling me to move on, but I'm not really sure if that's just like the flesh or if it was actually hearing from God.
yeah, it's hard to tell. Pray, and listen. I don't know.
Do you have a spiritual mentor in your life, like somebody that you could share everything with, that's like that you're able to be like real deep and connected with? So I feel like somebody with a close relationship like that might be able to help you through those kinds of things a lot easier than something like that. So I don't know if you've got somebody like that in your life or not, but it might be good to pray for that. Like, hey, God, who can be my mentor? You know, and pray that God provides somebody for you. You know, might be somebody here, might be somebody back at church, or might not be anybody at Westchester. It could be somebody else. in another church. I'm not sure where God's leading you, but I think that's very important to have somebody you can be real with and honest with, and say all the things that are on your mind that you're afraid to say out loud because you don't want to look bad, but like have somebody that will be able to listen to you and love you completely, and then understand those things and try to help you work through them and work to understand a little bit more. I got a couple people like that in my life, and it's super helpful when we feel stuck like that. So yeah. To love sacrificially. That's part of it too. Sacrifices are hard, man. Sacrifices are meant to be hard. They're not meant to be something easy. So when you're giving your time and efforts to somebody, that's important also.
I just want to go back to this one line in the last paragraph of page 73. It says, "This again is the great irony. People crave connection, yet loneliness spreads." And, it's true when you see things about suicide, that I think that's they want something, they want connection, but then they're so lonely. And I don't think that that's abnormal. I think, I hate to say it's almost the norm. I really don't know, but I think that that's a statement that we could look at a little bit more closely.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think there's different like levels of connection. We talked about there's intimacy, there's connection, but no intimacy. There's connection, but not like acceptance. There's connection, but not, being fully seen and known. And I think people crave the deeper things, being seen, being known, being understood, accepted completely. And I think that's what I read in Sharon's story, is that she never gave up on me. And she loved me right where I was, exactly how I was. So yeah, and connection could mean like a lot of different things. I think people crave this, the true intimacy.
Kind of the next question is kind of getting into what Ori was saying. The Proverbs text says, "A friend always loves." Should we always follow this proverb literally? Why or why not? I guess that really depends on your definition of love, right? What do you guys think of that?
It's funny we only have one word for love, when like the Greek, if you look in the old Greek text, they had all these different words for different kinds of love. So like you said, it depends on your definition, but I would say yes.
Mhm.
We should follow this literally.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with Lauren. And I don't think that it's easy sometimes, but I think that that's like, if you're a friend, otherwise you would be what they call like maybe a fair weather friend.
Mhm.
But I agree with Lauren that it may not be easy, but I think that that's what a friend does.
Yeah, people see right through that, and they end up being turned off more times than not. It may be easy to put these scriptures into practice with your Christian friends, but what are the implications for your friendships with non-believers? What should those friendships look like?
I think it's even more important with non-believers because they're looking for something authentic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the biggest thing that I hear from people is that they don't want to feel judged. they understand that in some ways they could be doing things a little bit better, but they don't want you to make them feel bad about it. And it's important just to be there with people, and a lot like the first few chapters were saying, like, let God work in and through you, and then your presence is going to attract other people. And with my friends that are non-believers, that's the biggest thing that I try to tell them, not directly, but through my actions, is that, hey, I'm not judging you. You are who you are, and I love you because you're my friend. And I hope that over time they see Christ in me, and they will be attracted to that. But they don't want to be pushed, and they don't want to be judged. I think those are the two big things. But you can love somebody without pushing and judging them. You actually should love them without doing those things at all, you know?
Yeah, I think we have to remember that they're not under the law. You know, they're potential, believers. But we live under the law because we know God's law, and we are held to that, standard. But you can't hold them accountable for what they don't know yet. But I mean, they might know. It really depends. But yeah, I think, how else are you going to be able to tell them hard truth without first being a friend, without first loving them and building the foundation of friendship, like we saw in Sharon's story?
Yep. I was about to say,
You can't go up to a stranger. Can't go up to a stranger or an acquaintance and tell them, hey, we got to talk about this. Like, you're sitting here. Like, they're not going to receive it. You're going to, you got to build that loving friendship foundation first. And that includes accepting them where they are.
Yeah. People need to know that you care and that you're listening. Like Patty's story where she asked her the girl's daughter's name, and she's like, wow, like nobody's really asked me that before. Like, and that builds that little bit of trust there. Okay, you're listening, you care, and you're invested. Okay, I could share a little bit more. And as I share a little bit more, the relationship can grow. And as the relationship grows, hopefully they continue to see Christ in you. So
I think the tendency of a lot of people in casual conversations is to shrink away when someone talks about incredible pain. They just shrink away, like, oh, I don't want to mention it anymore. I don't want to upset you. It's like they're already thinking about it. Ask them, honor the baby's life, by talking about her name. She was a person, So that was a great way that Patty was present.
I mean, it was extremely emotional. And the little girl was only 8 days old, and here I am with my little granddaughter, and then she said, oh, she just wanted a girl so badly, and then she had like this second son. I said, there's nothing wrong with two boys. Oh, I know. I mean, I'm the mother of 3 boys and desperately wanted a little girl, but and so there were just so many things. It was a very interesting encounter.
Yeah,
I think you did well.
It was tough.
I'm sure.
Yeah. Well, I promised you guys I would keep this to about an hour. It's 7:59 here. So does anybody have anything else they'd like to share, or any new prayer requests or anything else like that before I close this out?
We're going to be on vacation next week, but I'm going to try to tune in. But if I miss it, I'll be with you in spirit.
Okay, it'll be on Westchester's YouTube also. I've been uploading them.
Okay, good.
Yep. Okay. So next week's my last week facilitating these, and then week 8 is Pastor Carey, and then you guys will have Pastor Owen back. That's exciting. I'm sure he's got all kinds of cool stories about stuff he's been doing over the past couple months. And
Well, this has been very nice. You've done a good job. I really enjoyed it.
Thanks. I've enjoyed doing it too. And we're not done yet. We still got next week. All right. I'm going to close this in prayer, and then Edmund, you came back online. Did you have something you wanted to share, or you're good? Okay. All right, then. I'm going to close this in prayer, and then I'll see you guys next week. All right. Heavenly Father, I want to thank you again for tonight. I want to thank you for bringing us here, to teaching us what it is to be present with people and what that looks like, and how we can love people sacrificially, how we can give our time, how we can give our resources, how we can give our emotions, and just lend our ears to people, to listen, and to actually listen and care, God. I think that's the big thing that people see when we're trying to be present with them, God. So teach us how to listen, teach us how to care, God, and change our hearts so that we can love the way that you love, God. I want to thank you for the stories that were shared tonight, God. I want to thank you for just showing the fruits of this book even over the past couple of weeks, God. And that's exciting. And I'm excited to meet with these people again next week, God. Thank you. Continue to speaking to us through this book, through your holy scriptures, through song, through whatever ways and media that you need to speak to us, God. Speak to us, and we will listen, and we will grow, and we will grow closer to you and be obedient. And I say all these things in Jesus' holy name. Amen. Amen. All right, guys. I'll see you next week. Thanks so much for joining us.
See you guys.
Bye.
Bye, thank you.
Bye.